Hey everybody, Drew here, and this is the Drew Game Awards, as promised when I was promising it on the other channel of Drew Games. It is now here on Drew here on YouTube.com. With that being said, welcome to the Drew Game Awards for 2020, in which I, with a couple of friends of mine, are going to be going over the best and the worst and talking about what the fuck happened in 2020. With that being said, joining me right behind me via the PlayStation Network is the one and only Goochie. How you doing, my friend?
Hello, I'm doing great.
Define great in 2020.
I'm not Donald Trump.
Moving on from that, joining me is my younger brother Desert Nord, as usual on the phone from Arizona. Hey, bro.
Hey there.
How are you doing today?
I'm alright.
Any words of wisdom to counteract what Gucci said?
No, it's, 2020's been different, to say the least, and horrible to say the most.
2020 is the only year where anything could happen and people go, well, what do you expect? It's 2020.
Sure, yeah.
Case in point, any other year, if you had said that CD Projekt Red is going to be sued by its own investors, people would have laughed you off the fucking planet. Any other year.
Oh, yeah. Surprise and wonder just abounds,
Yeah. If you had said that The Last of Us Part 2, any other year, would have garnered hatred from gamers across the internet, you would have been laughed off the fucking planet. But that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
If you had said any other year that this year nobody's going to attend the Super Bowl, and you're only going to be able to watch it from home or on the internet, you would have been laughed off of the fucking planet. No.
Yeah, and in the realm of gaming, if you had told somebody that there would be almost every AAA game would be a joke,
you would have been laughed off the planet.
They'd be like, why? They'd be like, well, how would that happen? AAAs are almost always the most funded, the most worked on, the most effort put into, and they have the most advertising and promotion. Why would they be the worst? Well, here we are.
Yeah. So with that said, in a year that there isn't much good to talk about, there is going to be some good to talk about. For starters, best ongoing game is the first category that I'm going to be introducing here. And also throwing out the award for. Now, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to actually, I have the winner written down right here already, but I'm going to throw out games that deserve to be nominated for it for each category, and then I'm going to tell you which one that has been selected to be the winner of it. So, the nominees for Best Ongoing Game are as follows, according to my channel, or channels of Drewdat and Drewdat Games. With that said, the nominees are No Man's Sky, Destiny 2, Among Us. Where the hell's the list of games? And finally, Apex Legends. And the winner is No Man's Sky. Only because the place that game was in when it came out, compared to now, it doesn't even act like the same game, much less look like it.
Correct. This is a game that they have absolutely revamped, redone, refurbished from its original state, and have taken it to its inevitable greatness that it should have been to begin with.
There are two...
Well, I remember buying the game way back when, and then being like, why did I purchase this game? I can't play it. It's too open-ended.
Well, an open-ended game is actually quite a good thing, but
yeah, but this was like you didn't know where you were going, you didn't know that much about it.
Well, I don't care for it a lot myself because whenever I have tried to play it since since No Man's Sky Next, I don't know where the hell I'm going. I don't know where the fuck my ship is. I don't know how to fix it. I even don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's my main problem with it. I should put back in and play it again sometime, but my main problem was I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know, like you said, how to repair the ship.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Now, keep in mind, the last time I played it was like in 2019 at some point. So it's been like well over a year since I tried. So who knows where it's at right now.
Did it come out in 2019?
No, it came out in 2017, 16.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. It's been out for a while.
Just molded together.
Yeah. But anyway, best ongoing game goes to No Man's Sky. So with that said, there are going to be certain categories where there are no nominees, just a winner, because I can't think of a game that can compete with certain games in certain categories.
Yeah, 2020 was rough, bro. That's what happens when you don't have a lot of nominees for a category.
No. For best ongoing game, that was easy to come up with nominees off the top of my head for. Because Destiny 2 has been doing a decent job since they cut away, Bungie's been doing a good job with Destiny, in my opinion, since they cut away from fucking Activision. What other game did I say, Among Us? Well, that's going to be mentioned later on anyway, so stay tuned, people. With that being said, is there anything else that anyone wants to say about No Man's Sky or their thought on best ongoing game before we move on to best side characters for games in 2020?
Yeah, the only thing I would say about the best ongoing game list is that you could have put things on there like Fortnite.
Well, first of all, Fortnite has won Game of the Year, best ongoing game every year since,
no, I know,
until this year.
But none of us are fans of that one, so for our specific version, we would leave that one out.
Yeah,
none of us
that's
are fans of that.
Yeah. The only thing... Skyrim, best ongoing game? Look, if they release a fucking port for Series X and PS5, then maybe that'll be considered for 2021, but as it is, that hasn't been released. So
yeah, I don't remember there being any huge upgrades to Skyrim in 2020 here.
Yeah.
Because you got Skyrim and then you also got ESO.
Elder Scrolls Online? Yeah, now that I think about it, that should have been a nominee at the very least, but it is what it is, and No Man's Sky does deserve it.
Yeah.
To be the best ongoing game.
I need to pop that in again and play it, but I'm worried about popping it in and playing it because I'm worried there's going to be a major download for it.
Well, even so, that would be a good thing.
Yeah. Other than the time it takes for it to download.
So with that said, we're going to get to the next category, best side characters in games. Now, how you get a best side character in a game is by absolutely beautiful writing of the narrative of the story of the game. And the character models do kind of help along the way, but it's mostly about the writing, though. So with that being said, best side characters in games for 2020 goes to Cyberpunk 2077. I can't remember everyone's name of every side character in the game thus far, but every side character that I've run to is interesting, and you just want to sit and talk to them the whole time, in my experience. From Judy to Pan Am to Wako or whatever her name is, that is your first fixer if you are a nomad. And then if you're a street kid, there's some weird guy with glasses that I can't remember the name of. he's another memorable character as well. The only problem is for me, one of the most unmemorable characters in Cyberpunk is actually Johnny Silverhand for me.
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be more to him than just, he's a chip stuck in your fucking head. Okay, but aside from the main story of the game, everything else is absolutely beautiful when it comes to the narrative. And that means all side characters. So that's why Cyberpunk 2077 will get the category of best side characters in games for 2020. Goochie, anything to add?
Not really.
Nord?
Most of the games I've played don't have side characters.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot to pick from this year, so,
Yeah.
and not a lot of story-driven greatness this year either. So, I mean, one thing that not a lot of people will criticize about Cyberpunk is that it is a story. It's a good story. It's well written.
Yeah.
It's got compelling side characters. In fact, it's got compelling characters. Now, whether or not Johnny Silverhand was done correctly, no, he wasn't. But
I do want to say, and I do want to say that it's not due to Keanu Reeves' performance whatsoever. He was amazing in his performance.
Some people would say that it was just Keanu being himself, which of course is typical fodder for greatness. But aside from that, it's just Keanu Reeves being himself. And we could call that acting, but it's really just him being himself.
Either way, it's not Keanu Reeves' fault that, for me, Johnny Silverhand was a flop, if you will.
Yeah.
That solely falls at the feet of CD Projekt Red. Just like everything else they're going through right now. So,
yeah, the writing's not perfect, but some of the characters are incredibly compelling, and of course it was such an anticipated game, so, I mean, it's something that a lot of gamers got to experience. So, whether or not the game functioned right, the characters were well written, most of them.
Yeah. So, with that said, there's not much more I can say other than probably my favorite character from the game, Pan Am, competes with, if not blows completely out of the water, Kate from Fallout 4.
Well, sure.
As my favorite, romantic interest from games.
Yeah.
But with that being said, there's nothing else to talk about Cyberpunk, because there's going to be another chance to talk about that later. With that being said, we're going to get one of the bad categories out of the way right now, and that's most disappointing game of 2020. Spoiler alert, it's not Cyberpunk.
Yep.
The most disappointing game, I will talk about what happened with it, and then I'll tell you what the name of the game is after that. So, cast your minds back to earlier this year. A leak came out. People started talking about it. And then those people started getting their shit taken down through DMCAs and copyright strikes. With or without using any footage or screenshots. And then the mainstream media did not report it. Then eventually the game came out and everyone realized the leaks were completely right about the narrative in the game. And the sales dropped like a fucking rock. And that game led to RK Outpost creating a t-shirt that I'm wearing right now. Yes, the most disappointing game is The Last of Us Part 2 for 2020.
Yep.
And Desert Nord is not surprised.
Yeah, this is sort of dead obvious because, I mean, and again, this would be the sub-caveat to the category is two fans of the series.
No.
Absolutely nothing but a middle finger to fans of the series.
No, I don't want anyone to misconstrue this category for being the worst game, because it's not. That's another category we're going to talk about soon. I just wanted to get this out of the way now, to talk about the elephant in the room. Now, if I were to throw a category of most broken game, there would be a competition between the game that wins the worst game and Cyberpunk at that point. But Last of Us Part 2 is not a broken game. Far from it. It functions good enough to be like Game of the Year. Only problem is that a game like the Uncharted series, the Last of Us series, basically your traditional Naughty Dog games, are hinged as much on the narrative as the gameplay itself to be a success. So with that said, when half of the game fails, you're left with only half a game at that point.
Yep.
And yeah, it's incomplete work, and it deserves to be recognized as such. Hence why it's the most anticipated game. Sorry, most disappointing game of 2020. It was one of the most anticipated games of 2020 at about a year ago.
Yeah, and by the way, if I'm not mistaken, maybe I am, but I don't think I am. The biggest problem with Last of Us Part 2 is that you get playing to it, and if you're a fan of the series, you're basically taken out of giving a damn about the game within the first hour or two of playing it.
At the longest, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're just like, I don't even like this game. Get it out of my gaming system.
Yeah.
You know? If you're a fan. Now, if you're not a fan and you've never seen any Last of Us Part 1 or anything, you know nothing about it, you put that in, you might think, oh, well, maybe this is compelling. I don't know. But if you're a fan, it's an absolute FU.
Or if you've never played a Naughty Dog game before at all, you'll probably think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then,
sure, and it's because it looks good. There's the action and playability is there. It's just the storyline is very much a middle finger to fans of the series.
Yeah. Goochie, anything to add about Last of Us Part 2?
Nope, I've just learned to stay away from it thanks to you guys.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah.
And thank you to Geeks and Gamers as well.
Yeah, the slings and arrows they've taken for it.
Yeah. Kind of like the arrow that I willingly took from Musso over Spider-Man Miles Morales. That I rightfully earned. In order to try to make a name for myself. Anyway. We're going to get to one of the anticipated games right now because the next major category would be best sequel. So, with that said, we're going to go to Goochie first. So, what is your most anticipated game that's due to come out in 2021?
Well, I hope this is due to come out, and I don't know if this will also be on Xbox too, because there's been hints of it coming doing a double system gaming, and it's Show 2021.
That being, folks, MLB The Show 21, made by San Diego Studios and published by Sony.
Yes.
So,
a couple things about it before we get away from it. One, I hope in the next one when it comes out, if it does, I hope in the next one they allow you to turn off challenges, because those are getting annoying.
I agree.
I wish they'd keep them so that you can have the choice of doing them or not doing them. But I really hope they give us the chance to take challenges away and just earn points by doing stuff in the game like a regular ball player.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I hope about the game too is that they don't have as many characters be upset about their contracts after they're signed. That was the problem with 2020 was you'd sign a player, he'd accept the contract, but once he got to the team, he'd be majorly disappointed in the contract, and that'd be a morale hit to your team. So I hope they fix that too in 2021. Now the other game that I had up here, but I didn't choose this game because the first game was not the first game, but the last game was so bad. And that was 2K20 WWE.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that when they come out with the next one, that's leaps and bounds better than the last one. Anyway, that's my bit.
It needs to be for the sake of Take-Two Interactive's integrity with the WWE license. So, Nord, anything to add about MLB The Show 21?
Well, if it's an improvement off of 20, then it's going to be spectacular because 20 was great.
If the history of development, from my experience of playing every show in recent memory, is any indication, that then there is going to be improvements, because there's been improvements from every game for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets any better than 20, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Because 20 was nearly a perfect baseball game.
Yeah. There's a couple of things here and there, but it is what it is.
And that's why I was torn between both WWE and the show, because the show had already came out with a great game prior to it, and WWE's 20 game wasn't that good according to most people.
Yeah. Like I said, if I had done this like this last year, for like an award thing on the channel, then I probably would have had a category of most broken game, and 2K20 would have easily won that. But I don't even have that as a category this year either, like I said. But with that being said, moving back to the major categories, we did that already. Best sequel of 2021, of 2020, is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Available for PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, I believe, as well, and PS5, and I believe it's also on Steam as well. Desert Nord?
Yeah, there was a couple to pick from in this category, and so it just comes down to the end quality. You know, the visuals, the storyline, the characters, all the parts of the game that you would associate with an Assassin's Creed game just nudged it out in front of others this year. You know, I mean, there was definitely a couple to go around, so it's a winner. It's the winner in this category, but not by a massive margin.
Yeah. The only gripe I really have with it is the power system to go do like a raid or a new quest. That's the only gripe I have for it. Otherwise, the gameplay, the atmosphere had me feeling like Skyrim all over again. So.
Yeah, it was supposed to have a Nordic feel to it.
Yeah.
And it does.
So with that said, I'm going to announce the next category. I'm going to let Desert Nord take the lead on it, so I can run to the bathroom right now, folks.
Yeah, so it's the most anticipated game, my most anticipated game of 2021.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, so it was kind of like a three-way decision on this one, kind of a nudge. But it comes down to Far Cry 6, Halo Infinite, and Forbidden West from the Horizon series, Horizon Forbidden West. And so I ended up having to choose Horizon Forbidden West just because between the three, the other two are being milked at this point. Halo has had so many games in its series that it's hard to think that there's barely any, there's barely any content left there. And you can say the same about the other one, Far Cry 6. I mean, it's the sixth game of the series, and it's been milked quite thoroughly by all of its other previous sequels. So I just had to go with Horizon Forbidden West because it's only the second that I know of, the second game in the series, and it's still a wide open storyline, a lot to do there, a lot to see, a lot more writing to be done, and would probably end up being a better game overall than the other two, but we'll see. You never know these things until they happen. I just think that one has the most potential. But that's my most anticipated game of 2021, Horizon Forbidden West. And bro should have went to the bathroom before he started the stream, but hey, I guess we're having to deal with an intermission here, sort of.
Anyway, Rob.
Yeah, I'm here.
North.
Yep.
How is Pokemon this year?
Oh well, they keep adding, saying new things to that. They had increased the level cap for 2021 on that game to 50 from 40, which it had since 2016. So a lot of people are excited to get back into that one now. And that one actually would have been probably a candidate for best ongoing game, but a lot of people have turned off from it just because it's very monotonous and it's very, slow paced, and a lot of people who are hardcore gamers will find it maybe a bit boring. But it is, it's more of an active gamer's game than it is a regular traditional video game. So, and plus, of course, it's a Pokemon game, so it's acquired taste to begin with.
Was it anything like Magic Online, or was it totally different?
Well, I can't speak to that. I am assuming there's a lot of interaction between players in Magic Online. And there's definitely a lot of interaction between players in Pokemon Go. There's like 10 different ways you can interact with other players. Everything from trading to battling, gym battles, working together, hunting, all sorts of things. But I can't speak to how similar it is to Magic Online because I don't play Magic.
Well, I'm not even sure Magic Online is a thing anymore. I knew it was at one point, but...
Yeah, it might be. I have no idea.
Can I take control again now, please?
Go right ahead.
So, what game did you say while I was away that was your anticipated game, bro?
I would say Horizon Forbidden West.
Okay.
But just barely, and for some specific reasons.
Okay. You can tell me what those are off camera so you don't repeat it to the viewers.
Yeah.
So with that said, that was Desert Nord's most anticipated game going into 2021. Next category, I think the last major one we did was Best Sequel, right?
Yeah, that was our last major category.
Okay, so Best New IP goes to Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with me talking about games on YouTube, then I probably don't need to go too much into this other than it has one of the best main characters that I've seen in games in quite a while. Best narrative, best gameplay. There's not much to pick at about this. Other than the
except for, I would say, bro, that while it is a new IP, it is actually quite familiar to a lot of longtime gamers. The styling of the game, or at least the style of the gameplay, the genre, is not a new genre, so this was not groundbreaking. There was nothing wrong with the game, but again, it wasn't like, astonishing and, mind-melting, as far as new material goes. So.
And that's called foreshadowing because of the next category in the next game to talk about, folks.
Yeah.
Anything to add about Ghost of Tsushima before we get to the next category, Goochie?
I have nothing. Like I said, I haven't played it at all, so I don't know that much about it.
With that said, the next category is Best Innovation or Most Innovative Game of 2020. And it goes to Dreams.
Yep.
How do you rate Dreams? It's essentially a game creation or video creation or music creation tool posing as a game.
the game that creates games, technically.
Yeah.
People.
So innovation. What the hell else was going to win this category from us? Nothing. In 2020. Any year.
Yeah, and you'd be hard pressed to really compare it to anything. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If Dream comes out any year, it's getting this fucking category. And then among others.
Wouldn't something that would be up on that would be a Little Big Planet, maybe?
Sure, but that would be more like maps within the game. So if we're going to include games like that, then there's definitely a lot more that brings in. But this was like, to my knowledge, Dreams was like a wide open thing.
Yeah, it is. It's a wide open like creation tool to create games in. Not maps, games. You can't put a rating on that.
You also can't really define or describe it very well either.
Kind of like Dreams themselves. Just saying. So with that being said, we're going to do another side one here after talking about Dreams. Do you have anything else to add about Dreams, Goochie?
All I have to add is I own the game. I have yet to really delve into it. One thing that turned me off about the game, though, is that some of it you have to use your controller, the whole controller, to move some of the characters around. And that to me was a little awkward.
You're talking about motion controls.
Yes.
Yeah. That was a little upsetting, yeah.
Yeah. I just wish they would have stuck to the sticks and the buttons, but maybe with some playing here, yeah, I'll get used to it, but it is a little awkward that way.
Yeah, so with that said, the last of the anticipated games category is mine. Desert Nord doesn't know what I picked. I didn't know what I was going to pick until the other day. I pulled up a list from GameSpot of games due to come out in 2021. And I was going through it going, well, there's not much here.
There's not much worth saying is very anticipatable.
Yeah. Which meant that there was only two things to consider, Halo Infinite or Horizon Forbidden West. So with that said, my choice, like Desert Nord, my most anticipated game because of the fact that they have to rework it with Halo is Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, and of course we know Halo Infinite was supposed to be a 2020 game.
Yeah, but now it's a 2021. But even then, I'm more interested in Horizon Forbidden West than Halo because of everything involved. And I assume it's safe for me to say that everything that Desert Nord said about Forbidden West applies to me too. So even though I didn't hear any of it, but if you know Desert Nord and I personally, when you get one of us talking about certain topics like politics, all you need is that one person's opinion, and you have the other's opinion right there.
Yeah, what I want to say about Forbidden West, since there's some things that should be said here, is that it's a game that has a lot left to be said for itself, unlike the others, where, I mean, what else is there to say about Halo? I mean, Halo is like one of the oldest games, longest running game series in all of gaming.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's left to say about it? It's already, as far as some of us are concerned, it's already peaked. It's already reached its pinnacle. It's already been as popular as it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
And in some cases, you may say that it's kind of tailed off a bit from its initial highest popularity during the original Xbox era.
I will say this, if God of War Ragnarok had been on the list, I would have chosen that over this.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, and we don't even know. That's another one. We don't even know.
Yeah, and it wasn't listed on that list for 2021 whatsoever.
Well, yeah, I saw it listed for 2022, so I mean, I don't even know.
Well, we'll see. But with that said, moving on to another category that has nominees for it. and that's best sports game. So it's a category that you know very well, Chris.
Yes, it is.
So with that said, the nominees for, based on the games that we've collectively played, are as follows: Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remake, MLB The Show 20, NBA 2K21, and where did I put that list? That's not it. Oh, there it is. And Skater XL, with the winner being Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 is the best sports game of 2020. Since you're a sports game enthusiast, I don't know why anymore, Goochie, but I'll throw it to you first.
Well, my pick for that, judging out of all of them, probably would have been the show 20.
Yeah.
But another game that I'm surprised didn't make the list was PGA 21, which I've been playing right now and is an excellent game. And then also, I don't know how NBA 2K21 made the list, but it did.
It's
That game,
it's based off of the fact that you're playing, well, you've played it, and secondly, from what I'm hearing, the next gen versions are arguably better than most sports games that we can play on the real current gen versions.
one thing I will say about NBA 2K21, after a huge download and update, the game did get better. I mean, the controls got better.
But I will say that
a number of things did get better in the game, but I wouldn't have had that on my list if I was picking games.
It definitely wasn't going to win.
Yes.
And honestly, the only games I was really considering for it were the game that won, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, and the show. But ultimately, I came to the conclusion of Pro Skater 1 and 2 because personal reasons of the memories of playing them originally on the older system. So really, it's the nostalgia that got me for it.
Yeah.
As they say, Desert Nord, nostalgia is a hell of a drug.
Yes, it is.
Well, this is a category where we would naturally have disagreements. See, I would actually more favor other games, but I would also give the caveat that there was a lot of face plants in the sports game industry.
Yeah.
Category this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like most sports games were crap this year.
Yeah. There was only two that stood out.
A few bright spots.
Yeah, there was only two that stood out.
Yeah.
Head and shoulders above all their others. That was the show and Tony Hawk at this point. So with that said, let's get into some of the choice categories. So let's go to Desert Nord first. What's Nord's choice for the best game of 2020?
As far as my favorite favorite game that I saw would be Yakuza. That would be my preferred
That's not what you have me write down here.
Okay, well, I apologize. I've been very kind of wishy-washy on this, just because there's so much that was worth discussing in the category.
Well,
I've seen a lot of gameplay, and I really do think that, despite reservations people have, I think it's one of the games that was an underdog and ended up being better than people expected it to be.
Do you want me to change it?
Sure, you might as well change it. I mean, I'm already saying it here, so.
Okay, because originally you had Doom Eternal.
Yeah, I know, but see, sort of Doom Eternal is like in the one-dimensional category, so it was kind of like a 50-50. I kind of had to think about it a little harder,
Alright, so Yakuza Like a Dragon is
But I will say,
sports
yes, I
game.
will say Doom Eternal was a wonderful game also.
Yeah. Gucci, anything you want to add about Yakuza Like a Dragon?
No, I'm good on this.
Alright. With that said, we might as well piggyback off into Best RPG, which is also Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
It had the best narrative, in my opinion, of any RPG this year. The only thing that was competing with it at this point was really Final Fantasy VII Remake at this point, which is not saying much for RPGs in 2020 that a remake nearly won Best RPG.
Yeah, and of course Cyberpunk should have been high in the category, but
Yeah,
same problem.
Yeah. Well, not really the same problem. It wasn't a remake. It's just that the release was horribly fucking rushed.
Yeah.
And
I just meant there's problems.
yeah, and they rebooted development several times during the 7-8 years that they were supposedly making it, which meant that it should have come out next year at the soonest. But it is what it is. But Yakuza Like a Dragon gets Best RPG of 2020 from us here at Drew Dat Games and Drew Dat here on YouTube.
Yeah.
With that being said, worst game of 2020. There are no nominees. There's only a winner, and it's it's Madden 21.
Yeah, this is hard to dispute this choice because of how bloody broken the game was.
Mm-hmm. Gucci, anything
I'm
that?
surprised they weren't embarrassed to release it, frankly.
Well, it's EA. They're not embarrassed of fucking anything.
Yeah. The one thing I'd add to this is I heard how bad it was from you guys that I didn't even buy the game. In fact, the only Madden game I bought this year was Madden 20, so I didn't even get 21.
And I told you not to even touch that one.
Yeah, you did, but being a sports junkie and the fact that it was kind of cheap, I got it anyway.
Which means that no matter what I say about the sports game, you're going to give in to your addiction and buy it anyway.
Pretty much. I have a bad addiction to these things.
Which is why I keep pushing you to buy other shit and play them.
Yeah. In the long run, Madden 21 will be fixed, but it may not matter by that point.
Yeah, because by that point they'll be going, and Madden 22, and it's going to be broken. Anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Madden 21.
I'm just hoping for the day to actually come back to bringing out NCAA games, and that'd be much needed.
I'm more interested in seeing what this rumored football game from 2K is going to turn into at this point.
I agree with Chris on that point, by the way. The NCAA games were always better than the NFL games.
Yeah.
The Madden games.
Because when a game that came out in 2007 still beats in gameplay anything that EA puts out for Madden to this day, something is fucking wrong when All Pro Football 2K8 is the pinnacle of fucking football games.
Yeah, and we were still to this day waiting for a replication or some kind of update to the Head Coach 09.
Yeah.
We've never gotten.
Yeah.
Well, basically what it boils down to is we need more competition in this area of gaming.
Like I did previously, which the video doesn't exist anymore, there was an episode of the Drew Dat Games podcast, which is now the Drew Dat podcast here on this channel, which is now centered around gaming, Star Wars, and anything that we care about doing at this point, which will open it up more for you, Gucci, at that point. But the title of one of the previous episodes of the Drew Dat Games podcast was hashtag End Madden Monopoly,
Yes, precisely.
which I encourage you guys to get trending on Twitter or Parler, depending on what your preference is. I would encourage Parler at this point, though.
The thing is, in a year with so many miscues in the gaming industry, the sports category had no business being the place where you found the worst content. But it's exactly what happened.
Yeah. So, with that said, are you guys almost ready to move on to another category?
Yeah, I am.
Are you?
Side category, did we do Gucci's choice yet?
You did my choice for most anticipated game, and I think you did for.
No.
I don't know if you did for best game.
Well, we're doing best game now.
Okay, best game of 20. This is tough because one game came out this year that was actually earmarked for 21.
Yeah,
and was released early this year.
And that's the game that I've written down because that's what you told me.
Yeah, and then another game that actually did come out in 20, and that was MLB The Show. Both deserve to be up there towards best games because 20 was great, and PGA 2K21 is a marvelous game. It's relaxing. You can set difficulty level to any position you wanted to. Like for me, I have all the environment easy, but I have my opponents I play against very hard. So you get very close matches. And it's just a really well done game, which is surprising because my worst game is by the same company.
So you're officially saying PGA Tour 2K21 is the Gucci's Choice Award for 2020?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that because you and I went through text messages like in the wee hours of the morning, like yesterday or whatever, me going, can you just pick one, please?
Yeah.
Hey, I understand. It's hard to choose. It really is. You know, I mean,
yes, I know that.
I was doing the same thing, bro.
Yes, I know that, but still, ultimately, we have to. And I know full well it was hard to pick. I was still going through the Drew's Choice one for me, right up until I went to bed just before. And by the way, I got up like 5 minutes before we started filming this, so I literally the last thing I did was write down that category, and then I went to sleep.
Yeah, basically, I believe you asked me what was my most anticipated game for 2021.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have picked PGA for 2021 because it actually came out in 2020, which was amazing.
That's what we were arguing about.
Yeah. And my pick for 2020 was definitely going to be PGA 2K21.
Yes. And we did get that clarified beforehand, so I was able to actually write it out into the thing, which is why I needed clarification.
Understandable.
Yeah. So with that said, we're going to get into the best music now in for 2020 or best score, and that goes to Dreams. The music that comes in the base game, for lack of a better term for this thing, is beautiful, and then you can create your own music in it too, which means that the music quality is only as good as what you're allowed to make in it. So, what game was going to win best music then? Gucci, anything to add to best music?
No.
Or anything to dispute?
No. I mean, I basically had no say in this since most of the music I hear in video games is pre-made and
is in sports games and makes your brain want to crawl out of your ears. Nord, anything to add about the music in Dreams?
Yeah, I would say that's that's definitely worthy of the win. There were only a few others that were worth even mentioning in this category, and Cyberpunk would have been one. It's just that it's all kind of down to the radio in the game. The radio was done really well in Cyberpunk.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You know, marvelously well, in fact.
When every time you get into your car in Cyberpunk, and the first thing you do, other than make sure that the camera's not in first person, is fidget with the radio.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, it was the radio system in Cyberpunk is one of its absolute best points, which is dumb, of course, but it's just the truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were a couple other games that could have, you know, won this category, but...
Like Final Fantasy VII.
Not with Dreams in the room.
Yeah.
So...
Like I said, with the categories that Dreams wins, any year that Dreams comes out, it's going to win these categories, regardless of what year it is and what other games are out there.
Yeah, and to make it a further point with Dreams, it's a game that's going to be one that gets better, and it was good to begin with. So
yeah,
you know,
the only time the Dreams isn't going to matter is shutting down servers and shutting down content for it.
Yeah,
that's the only thing that's going to stop this thing. Is the developers themselves, which is just like with like any ongoing game.
Yeah.
Which means that, mark my words, I expect to be giving Dreams Best Ongoing Game Award for 2021. Just watch.
It certainly would be in the candidacy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So with that said, we will be moving on to Best Narrative now.
Yeah.
And that goes to Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, it had a very well-written story.
Yeah.
Truly, a story you could really, you know, was compelling. You could get into. You could feel like you related to the characters.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's good writing.
If you saw the first episode of my Drew Play, which is the branding name of Let's Plays on my gaming channel, Drew That Games, the first episode of me playing Yakuza Like a Dragon is called Love and Heartbreak. So that ought to give you what the narrative on that episode is all about with Yakuza.
Yeah.
So yeah, Yakuza easily wins Best Narrative. The next closest might be Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then probably...
Yeah, well, of course we know that is very story-driven, so...
And then probably Cyberpunk from there.
Yeah.
But it was a 3-horse race.
There were some high candidates this year, but yeah, it's sort of... When you take everything together, it's sort of obvious the winner here, so...
So with that said, we're going to get into Best Multiplayer Game. And another game was going to get this until this game got a port or release on the Nintendo Switch, which from what I'm hearing doesn't play very well, but this means that this game can be awarded something in the year 2020 by us because a version of it came out this year. Otherwise, it previously came out like I don't know what year, but it exploded this year on PC. And that is Among Us.
Yep.
So with that said, when you guys get Switches, we can play it.
One of those absolute blast to play games among other people.
Yeah, like I was saying, when both of you lazy bums finally get Nintendo Switches, get this game and the three of us can play it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Among Us is, in my opinion, as much fun to watch people play as play, so.
Yep.
Which is quite rare for a game, honestly.
Yeah, games don't often achieve both of those, being fun to watch and fun to play.
Yeah. But it is what it is. So with that said, we're going to skip replay value for the moment and do the best main character of 2020, and it goes to Jin from Ghost of Tsushima. the main character you play in that game. Nord?
Yep. This was definitely one that was a relatable character, definitely a compelling, sort of like true hero, like if you're gonna have like any character rise to the level of a Luke Skywalker type in that game, or in like 2020's game field, that would be the winner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a compelling character. It's well written, and so it just sort of wins hands down. Which is again a side effect of the fact that Cyberpunk has been a bit of a letdown.
Yeah.
Because Cyberpunk should have won like a whole bunch of these categories, but obviously, it in hindsight now, it's not.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, Jin from Ghost of Tsushima is definitely the best written character of the year.
It would have.
How much of a look did Spider-Man get?
Spider-Man would have been like third in line for this.
What would be second?
Probably. Well, considering that I do best main character based on how they're written, as well as how they play. So far, I'm thinking the main character that you start out with in Yakuza, whatever his name is, would have been second.
Yeah, there was several to choose from. This definitely would have been a nominees category where a bunch of good, close winning, nearly winning nominees would be on the list.
Yeah. I'll do better with like the nominees and lists and whatnot, but that's gonna take more paper.
Yeah, wherever it matters. If it doesn't matter in every category, then oh well. But if it matters, it matters.
Yeah, it's gonna matter next year for this one. At least I hope.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm gonna get to Drew's choice before I do the. No, actually, I'll do replay value before Drew's choice, and then I'll do my choice game, and then I'll get into the three major ones, which is Game Developer of the Year, Best Direction, which is best job that a publisher did with publishing a game, and therefore treatment of the fan base with it, and then finally Game of the Year. So, with that said, the game with the highest replay value of the year goes to Dreams, obviously. The value of this for what you get for your money is infinite.
Yeah.
When you have a game that you create games in and play other people's creations, as in games in it, how is that not going to get the highest replay value of any game in any year that it comes out?
Well, I gotta say, this is another category where Cyberpunk was a letdown because it should have been a contender, if not the winner, if all went well. But it was a mess up.
The problem is that even if all went well for Cyberpunk, Dreams was still gonna get this.
Well, the way I see it, bro, you could say that, well, there's so much you could do with the base setting and plot and of Cyberpunk that it's sort of infinite in and of itself, much like Skyrim was.
Yeah, but you can't create new content on your own within Cyberpunk, though.
Sure, I get that. I understand that Dreams is for the purpose of content creation, so it is infinite, truly.
Yeah. Which is why Dreams was always going to win this, regardless of what happened with Cyberpunk. So.
Yeah, and it does deserve to win it, given everything that we've seen.
Yeah, so far, because there is still one more category that it does get, and that's up next right now. But first, Goochie, do you have anything else to add to Dreams about its replay value?
Not really, since I haven't played fully yet. I need to get to that still. I was like I said, I was a little put off with controller controls and when I tried to get into the tutorial of it. But once I get into it and get going, I'll definitely have something to say about it.
Yeah. So with that said, Drew's Choice game of 2020. This is the game that I've been playing the most since it came out, and it's Cyberpunk 2077. In spite of the bugs, between the side characters, the side quests, and basically just driving around Night City, listening to the radio that you can do, or just pretending that you're just living in Night City at that point, this is actually a fun experience, in spite of the issues, for me.
Yep.
And that's all I can really say at this point. Anything to add, Nord?
No, I would totally agree with that. I mean, as far as setting goes, man, nothing beats Night City. As far as, you know.
However, to be honest with you, I was torn between this and like 2 other games, but ultimately I settled on Cyberpunk, and not not one other game at this point. That being Saints Row the Third Remastered was the other game.
Yeah.
Only because you can do some of the same stuff as Cyberpunk, only Cyberpunk makes it look better when it's working.
Yeah.
And secondly, and I was thinking about Saints Row because there are certain things that are in Saints Row that I wish were in Cyberpunk, like your female character in Saints Row can just walk up and dance up against somebody. Just randomly on the street. I wish that female V could do that in Cyberpunk. That would make for interesting, chaotic fun. Instead of just going around shooting everybody, just go up and twerk on them.
Sure, and the core problem here is that Cyberpunk just came out a few days ago, practically.
Yeah.
And so, it needs work. That's all we can say.
So with that said, Drew's Choice is Cyberpunk 2077, but an honorable mention and a very close second is Saints Row the Third Remastered, which I'm going to keep playing. Because that thing is funny as fucking hell.
Yep.
So with that said, Developer of the Year is good from us here on Drewdat and Drewdat Games, respectively, is in fact going to Sucker Punch for Ghost of Tsushima. Nord?
Yeah, they definitely helped a lot of gamers get over the disappointment with Last of Us Part 2 with their release, which came right on its heels.
As well as distracting us from the year for a little while.
And they gave us our money's worth, and they made a good game, and there's very little except for unoriginality to really criticize about it. So I mean, it was a good release. The developers respectfully made a good game. They're worth praise at this point. Maybe they're not the king of the hill or anything, but they are good and worth this award, this designation.
And on that note, Ghost of Tsushima also gets another award for Best Direction, and that therefore goes to Sony for it.
Yep.
As well. Now I know what some of you are going to be saying at this point, some of our viewers. So if Ghost of Tsushima is winning like Best New IP, Best Direction, Developer of the Year, it's going to have to be winning Game of the Year. Not so fast, guys.
Yeah.
Best Main Character, it's getting all of these things, but the game that wins Game of the Year hasn't been said once.
Yep.
And in fact, this game is solely responsible for my channel, my gaming channel, exploding like it has. And it's arguably worthy of being Game of the Year in the first place. So with that said, are you guys ready to talk about the Game of the Year now?
Let's get to it.
The game of 2020, the best game, according to the three of us in agreement, which is, as you've heard so far, doesn't always happen, is Spider-Man Miles Morales. And by the way, that's the PS4 version.
Yep.
So I'll throw it to Goochie first about Miles Morales.
Now, when did Miles become a character in Spider-Man?
In the comics at some point, I'm not entirely sure.
Because I gotta hand this to Marvel and the developers of Miles Morales to take a character that was originally
that would be Insomniac Games.
Insomniac Games?
Yes.
Yes. But to take a character that was originally a geeky white guy with glasses and red hair, Tobey Maguire, and make it a badass African American, I mean, I give a lot of props to that. And I'm glad they did that.
You're forgetting that Miles Morales was as he is in the comics long before the movie even came out of Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
So Miles Morales existed even before Tobey Maguire was Spider-Man.
Yes. So I still give props to Marvel for doing that. And it was a great character switch on their part.
Nord, anything to add?
Well, what I would say about the game is that it would have been a nominee in a lot of categories. If indeed we did go over all the nominees from all the categories, it would have been a nominee in a lot of categories. It would have been a nominee in story character category, a nominee in the setting category, a nominee in the character category, and definitely a nominee in the music category too.
Yeah, it does tick all those boxes, but it was up against some awesome competition for all of those categories.
And if we had like a graphics category or an appearance category or artism, like an best artistic game category, it would win that too. I mean, we just didn't have a lot of other categories, but these are all major positives with the game.
Yeah.
And as you were correctly stating, this was an already existing character. It's not really what a lot of people thought it was at first. They thought it was just a racial swap, but it actually isn't. It's just the character that was already in the comics that they decided to include in a Spider-Man game prominently, which of course is just perfectly fine. And they did a good job of creating the game. The glitches are minimal. The gameplay is great. It's a good experience for fans of the physics. A lot of people were excited to see his character finally fleshed out in the video game, and so it kind of checks a lot of boxes all at once. It's not the best in any one of those boxes, but if you take all those checks together, you take all those positives together, it's hard to say that any other game checks that many boxes. So that's the reason for it winning here.
That's the true criteria for a game of the year.
Yeah.
Each thing that it does doesn't have to be the best, but if each and everything that it does do, and if it does it well, if you put them together and you get a finished product, that's going to be a great product. Good examples of games that have a couple things it does well, things that it needs to work on, like Cyberpunk, like functioning is not something that it checks.
The formatting of Cyberpunk was the worst mistake they made.
Yeah. Other games that don't check every box, one of them is music. That would be MLB The Show or any sports game.
Yeah.
That has never checked the box for music.
Yeah, and the reason Dreams doesn't win this, despite the fact that you might assume that from all of our other awards, is because Dreams doesn't have anything you can specifically say about the character setting, because there isn't any, really.
Yeah, because
whatever people make it.
Yeah. Like people's dreams, it's whatever you make it. Which they accurately named the game.
Those, or even really be a nominee in those ways. Whereas Miles Morales was definitely a character nominee, and a setting nominee, and a music nominee, and all these other categories as a nominee. It was definitely a quality product in all those categories.
Absolutely.
I agree with Desert Nord on this.
Same thing went for Marvel's Spider-Man, the previous Spider-Man game. Same thing goes for that too.
Yeah. And of course it checks also the nostalgia box, because we're all Spider-Man fans.
Yeah.
Going back 10, 15, 20 plus even more years.
Absolutely.
It's been a while since I picked up a Spider-Man comic, but I remember watching the old movies with Tobey, like we said, Tobey Maguire and all that.
Yeah.
And that made me a fan of the films.
I would encourage you to pick up Marvel Spider-Man because that's easily like $20 at this point. But then again, I would say the same thing about Miles Morales at this point too, other than its price, which is probably still quite a bit higher at this point anyway. But still, I would encourage you to get the previous Spider-Man game for the PS4. So, and then play through that while you're waiting for the price to come down of Miles Morales. So.
Yes.
So, get on that. So with that said, that's everything we have for the Drew That Game Awards, other than a couple more episodes of Is It Worth It is coming out over the course of the next couple weeks. This Saturday being, I believe it's episode 6. Yeah, because episode 5 was Cyberpunk. Episode 6 is Star Wars Squadrons. I go over where it's on sale at the time of the recording of that. And by the time you see it, that'll be the last day of those sale prices on Saturday. And then the following Saturday will be Saints Row the Third. Is it worth it? Yeah. So those are the only announcements for content on this channel that I have to talk about. I will be live soon, or not live soon, because I gotta wait for the strike still. I will have more Let's Plays coming over from Twitch to Drew That Games over the next coming few days, or later today, whichever. With that being said, from Drew, Desert Nord, and Goochie, thank you for tuning in to the first hopefully annual Drew That Game Awards here for 2020. Thank you, Goochie.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Desert Nord.
Yep, sure thing.
And on that note, do you guys want to leave with any other words at this point in time to mention?
No.
Nord?
Yeah, I would just say that I hope the gaming industry can catch up with the highest level of demand they've ever seen, ever.
Yeah.
They have the highest demand for content ever, and the content, for whatever reason, has been delayed, and underwhelming, and problems, and errors, and miscues, and strife, when it should have been like an absolute, it should have been a high five, basically. With the gaming industry, we've seen make great games, and we saw them make great games in times when things were, hard in other ways, but I'm just saying they need to get back to making quality over quantity, and definitely quality over speed. And I would just like to see 2021 be a year where games become legitimately high quality again. Because I didn't see that this year.
Yeah. What were you saying, Goochie?
What we need is more competition. We need game industries to realize, okay, let's not announce the game's coming out until we've seen all the bugs and fixed them, and then say when it's coming out, instead of saying, let's just rush it out there and then see what happens.
That's called a game as a service. Yeah. EA's done that for years, and they always fuck up.
Yeah, well, EA needs to fix its formula completely. Go back to the drawing board on its formula for game creation.
I think the entire industry needs to fix something right now, because in a year in which you have had consoles launching, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it really didn't feel like you had new consoles launching this year.
And I recently had this discussion with someone that works in electronics at the store with me and whatnot, and at the time it was on Christmas Eve, I believe, that we had this discussion, or the day after, one of the two, but this young man had said to me that And I was asking him if there was any other updates on like how selling consoles is right now. And he went, nope. And it pisses me off because our website doesn't update jack shit. I'm like, you're finally saying that to me? I've been telling you that this entire time. And because our company only takes orders online to be picked up, if it doesn't update on the site, you can't fucking buy it then. And he was going, it's pissing me off because it's ruining Christmas for everybody. I'm like, it's ruining more than just Christmas. It's ruining the launch of the entire systems. So,
And I really hope this doesn't mark the end of discs and systems.
All I will say is this at this point, and this is a message directly to Sony and Microsoft. If you want the 9th gen to be a success, or retailers, if you want to actually sell the product, actually do it on the fucking shelf.
Yes.
Do what you do with everything fucking else. Why are the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5 so damn fucking special? All you're doing is creating an environment in which scalpers can not only thrive, they have been the only way to get this shit for exorbitant prices.
Yep.
And because of it, people are deciding, you know what, I'm just not going to bother. And then you wonder why you're having trouble moving the units into actual customers' hands, instead of into the basements of people who are just going to sit on them and wait to sell them to people for stupid fucking amounts of money.
Yep, simply because of scarcity alone.
Yeah. All Sony, Microsoft, and all retailers, including the one I work for, sorry guys, all you're doing is, what's the word I'm looking for? Enabling these assholes to continue doing what they're doing with the current process of how to get the systems. All you're doing is enabling them.
Yeah, and so the reason that we feel as though this didn't feel like a launch year is that because artificial scarcity took over immediately.
Yeah, which is why I've said before, I'll keep saying it, until the systems are actually on store shelves, they're just in early access. They haven't actually launched yet then. Which
Yeah, well, I mean,
which
combine
means
that with a lame amount of content.
Yeah. Which means that we're still waiting for the official release date of when they're on shelves then, I guess. With that being said, 2020, thank God it's finally over.
Yeah.
Come Thursday.
Ditto.
With that said, do I have hope for 2021? Starting out, no. Because starting out in 2020, we're still going to be dealing with the same shit we are now. And we'll get more into that on the podcast on Wednesday. Because, like I said, it's not just about gaming anymore. We're going to be talking about gaming. We're going to be talking about this, that, and the other thing that pisses us off. Even if it has nothing to do with gaming at this point. With that said, thank you for tuning into the Drew Game Awards. Sorry for the rant at the end, but it needed to be said. Again, because apparently the horse is still not dead. And it won't be dead until retailers, Sony and Microsoft, realize that they got a problem on their hands that they don't want to fix.
Gamers can't game without consoles, guys.
Yeah.
You gotta know that.
And
yeah, pretty much.
And yes, granted, all if not most of these games are coming out on the real current gen systems, the Xbox One and PS4. Which, guess what? That's where people are going to be playing them. On the shit they got then.
Yep.
And really, to tell you the truth, the PS4 and the Xbox are perfectly good systems. And
Yeah, they are.
They can take a year or so off of making gaming systems and just refine them until they're better and then release them.
Like I've said before, at the start of every generation, when the Xbox One and PS4 were launching, I was questioning why they were coming out already in 2013. When Grand Theft Auto 5 was pushing the 360 and the PS3 into levels that we didn't think they were capable of. And I stand by that even now. Why are we getting next gen systems when Xbox One and PS4 still have life in them? Just like with the 360 and PS3 at the time. You guys do this too soon.
Yep.
Each and every time.
And make sure you can have a way to play older games on the new systems. That'd be well liked.
Xbox Series X does do that. Every single Xbox One game is reverse compatible straight out of the box. Meanwhile, the PS4 is like, well, certain games will be, certain won't. Well, that's a 180. Because the Xbox One, as it currently stands, certain games are and aren't across all three platforms. But with Xbox Series X, hell of a lot more games are reverse compatible. And then previously, Sony didn't give a shit about reverse compatibility. Now they're giving in a little bit, like they are with crossplay. And this is actually shit we should talk about on the podcast, actually. With that said, we gotta get the fuck out of here. With that said, thank you for tuning into the Drew That Game Awards. That turned into a preview for the podcast on Wednesday, I guess. With that said, thank you for tuning in. Hit the like, subscribe to the channel for the podcast and other unboxing videos and stuff of that nature. If you want to see me playing the games, go over to Drew That Games, where you'll find me doing just that over there. If you want to see it live for the time being, head over to Twitch/Drew That Games to catch me playing the stuff live, if you so choose to. Follow me on Parler as Drew That Games, on Twitter for the time being as Drew That Games as well. I will see you guys in the next one. From Desert Nord, Goochie and myself, thank you and good night.